Hello, home gardeners and small-scale farmers. It's Petros here with Soil Biome Consultancy. And in this episode, we're digging into the secret sauce of microbes and why compost alone may not be the answer for soil fertility. Let's get into it. What if I told you that the most important workers in your garden or on your farm are completely invisible? We spend so much time focusing on what is happening above the ground, the green leaves and the ripening tomatoes, our yields, that we completely forget about the underground metropolis beneath our feet. We're talking about the soil food web, a microscopic universe of bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and nematodes that possesses a unique power to turn dead, compacted dirt into liquid gold for your plants. Now, if you ask a traditional gardener guru how to feed this underground army, they'll give you a one-word answer, usually, which is compost. Well, we've all been told that compost is the ultimate cure-all, but is it actually the absolute best way to feed and wake up these microbes? A massive, groundbreaking 6-year study conducted by the USDA just gave us the definitive answer. And honestly, it is completely changing how we prep our garden beds for the winter. Today, we're breaking down the hard science from the multi-year research project to show you the real, data-driven number one driver of soil health. And it's probably not what you think. For decades, the gold standard rule of organic gardening has been just add more compost. Need better drainage? Compost. Nutrient deficiencies? Compost. Low microbial activity? Just layer on another 3 inches of black gold. Don't get me wrong, the USDA researchers confirmed that compost is absolutely phenomenal for one specific thing: building total soil carbon. Think of compost as a long-term savings account for your dirt. It sits there, it stabilizes the soil structure, it holds onto the water, it slowly builds up over years of dedicated application. It is a vital piece of the puzzle. But there's a major kicker from the 6-year study, and it's the exact reason why your garden might still be struggling despite endless applications of compost. The researchers discovered that compost alone did not actually wake up or energize the soil's biology very much. When they measured the active living microbial populations in the plots that only received compost, the numbers were surprisingly stagnant. It turns out that while compost provides a great house for microbes to live in, it doesn't actually provide the right kind of food to kickstart a biological revolution. If you want a thriving, highly dynamic, and biologically active soil food web that actively fights off plant diseases and unlocks locked up nutrients, there's a completely different practice you need to master. It's frequent cover cropping. A customized herbaceous seed mix and vegetative cover, in a sense. So why do living cover crops completely beat out premium compost when it comes to raw microbial activity? It all comes down to a specific scientific concept known as Labile carbon, or as I like to call it, fast food for microbes. You see, compost is highly stable. It has already been broken down and digested by other organisms before it ever hits your garden. Because it's so stable, it releases its energy incredibly slowly. It's like feeding your microbial populations raw grains instead of a fresh hot meal. Living roots, on the other hand, are a completely different story. As a plant grows, it performs photosynthesis. It takes solar energy from the sun, it turns it into carbon-based sugars, and then does something mind-blowing. It actively pumps up to 40% of these sweet sugars, amino acids, and proteins directly out of its roots and straight into the surrounding soil in your garden bed. These are called root exudates. To the soil bacteria and fungi, these exudates are pure, easy, digestible, high-energy fuel. They're the ultimate fast food. The USDA study proves this with staggering data in the agricultural systems where they grew living cover crops every single year. The microbial biomass, which is the actual physical weight of the living microbes in the soil, more than doubled. Let that sink in. By simply keeping a living root in the ground, they doubled the life in their soil. Meanwhile, what happened to the plots that only got compost and were left completely bare over the winter? Their microbes were essentially starving in the dark. Without those active root exudates pumping into the earth, your garden bed, the biological activity plummeted. Living roots act as the solar engine that keeps the entire soil food web alive, awake, and multiplying during the off-season, when your main cash crops or summer vegetables aren't growing. Now that we have the data, how do you actually apply this 6-year USDA study to your backyard garden or small homestead? You don't need a tractor or a degree in agronomy to pull this off. Here's your definitive 3-step biological action plan. Step 1, stop leaving your soil bare. The researchers discovered something incredibly important about frequency. They tested plots where cover crops were only planted once every 4 years. The result? It was enough to sustain the microbial populations. To see a real permanent, game-changing biological gains, your soil requires a winter blanket of living plants every single year. The second your summer tomatoes or corn come out, a winter cover crop needs to go in. Never leave your soil naked to the elements. Step 2, pick your flavor based on your goals of your garden or your small-scale farm. The USDA study specifically tested 3 variations: pure mustard, pure cereal rye, and a legume rye mix. The fascinating part of the data is that all 3 variations successfully boosted microbial life. However, they found that if you want a massive surge in highly beneficial bacteria like Pseudomonas, which are famous for suppressed root disease and helping plants tolerate environmental stressors, you should specifically opt for a cereal rye or legume rye mix. The roots of grasses like rye are incredibly fibrous and act like a massive playground for the beneficial bacteria. So consider those cover crop varieties. Step 3, deploy the ultimate combo punch. Please hear me out loud and clear on this. Do not throw away your compost pile. The secret sauce isn't replacing compost with cover crops. It's combining them. Use your compost applications to build up your soil savings account, securing the long-term carbon, structural stability, and water-holding capacity of compost. But use annual winter covers crops to pay the daily bills and feed the active workforce. When you combine the structural benefits of compost with the raw biological fuel of living cover crops, your soil becomes virtually unstoppable. At the end of the day, the scientific data from the 6-year study leaves no room for debate. If you want a garden that truly works for you and your soil, that naturally cycles nutrients, holds on to water during droughts, and actively defends your plants against pests and diseases, you absolutely have to keep it covered, and you have to keep it living. Think of winter cover crops as your premium fuel for the garden's underground biological engine. Without them, you're basically leaving your best workers stranded in the cold. If you're a fellow soil nerd and want to dive deep into the raw data, read all the graphs and look over all the full 17-page USDA research paper yourself, I've placed the direct link right down in the description box below. Before you wrap up your garden prep this season, do your soil a massive favor. Head over to your local seed supply, grab some crimson clover, vetch, or cereal rye seeds, and get them broadcast into the ground well before your first hard frost. Let your microbes do the heavy lifting for you this winter while you sit inside by the fire. Thank you so much for tuning into this very first episode of the Soil Biome Consultancy channel. If you want to build a truly resilient, high-yielding garden or farm backed by real peer-reviewed science, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment with your favorite cover crop mix and share this episode with your fellow growers. Until next time, keep those roots living and nurture your biome. When soil thrives, everything else follows.